You are listening to Bang Radio.
Welcome to Bang Radio. My name is Steve Mayeda, and I am your host of today's episode. Today's episode, we actually have two parts. It's an interview with Ryan Jakovljevic, an amazing guy, in my opinion, a thinker, somebody who is extremely creative about being social, being mentally healthy, just being a great expression of yourself. But by trade, he is a therapist. And this is where the conversation gets interesting. We start out talking about the seduction scene and, what's right about it, why there's a need for it, what's wrong with it, why men are looking for this as an answer in their life. But we also turned it into cheating, relationships. How do we have a healthy one? How can we, have a good sex life in a relationship that lasts, years into it? What are some of the common solutions of when we run into those road bumps, those pitfalls that we find when we're that intimate with somebody? And we take it all the way into judgment, crime, punishment, what creates, a sociopath, and how do we heal? How do we become the better version of ourselves? Bang Radio is produced by The Sexual Life. That is a company that I founded that believes in a social dynamic to become the better man, meaning that we were born to be social. We were born to be sexual. We were born to be an expression of ourselves. That's what Bang Radio is bringing to the table. And I hope you walk away with that message. If you want to find out more about Ryan, The Sexual Life, what Bang Radio stands for, go to thesexuallife.com/Ryan Answers. You can find out more about Ryan, and also you can find some articles that are written by him, as well as articles that were inspired by this podcast, written by us here at TSL. And so I encourage you to go there. You can also download some cool free stuff. We always have gifts for you. thesexuallife.com/Ryan Answers. Let's get into part one of today's episode. What's happening? Hey, we are here with an exclusive interview, RyanAnswers.com. I always hate it when people don't say my website in the beginning. They wait till the end. But
yeah, that's kind of lame, eh?
I'm going to make an attempt at your name. And I always hate this because whenever I screw it up publicly, like if I'm introducing somebody at a convention,
yeah,
and then I fuck up their name and then I become like really good friends with them. And I just can't believe that's...
You never live it down, right?
Yeah,
it's like
totally.
That ongoing joke.
So Ryan Jakovljevic.
Close enough, man. That'll do.
What is it?
Jakovljevic.
Dude, that was pretty fucking okay. I feel proud about it. Man. Yeah. So you're a counselor. You know a lot about like the dating and seduction scene. You're
yes.
engaged. You've been in a long-term relationship for a long time. There's a whole bunch of stuff. 6 years.
We've been living together for 6 years. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. Been a while.
Wow.
I poop with the door open, put it that way.
Yeah. Sometimes I do that even if they're just home for the night or they're, man, this is actually funny because I want to talk to you about a bunch of different stuff because we actually met on Facebook and have interacted, and there's just always good stuff coming from you. And I joke around. I'm totally not serious on Facebook, which is probably a bad thing at this point.
Well, too many people are. Why would you go on social media to be serious and argue politics?
That's actually my theory on it too. It's like, it's a joke. I mean, the fact that you think this is your real life is not good, but hey, I want to talk to you about relationships. At the last 21 convention, that was like the number one thing asked of me. I'm in a relationship. I've been in this relationship for 2 years. I've had many relationships, good, bad. In fact, I always say this is the only good one I have because it's the only one that I have, of, the love romantic thing. And, but addiction, trauma, stuff like PTSD, and even in your type of therapy that you do, because this is a podcast that I think a lot of guys who listen to my stuff, need to hear, because it's all about being happy. It's all about being emotionally well.
It transcends dating, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, dating is such a minuscule thing, but when it comes to being socially healthy, sexually healthy, that, man, you've got to have an outlet for it. So first off, the pickup industry, dating, all that sort of stuff, relationships, I think it sends a poor message on what having a relationship, what being a sexual man is.
Yeah, you're saying that in the midst of the whole Julian Blank thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, totally. But even before that, man, because we would actually talk about this.
Yeah, I think we have
you
actually.
made that post. This is for my PUA buddies about a year and a half ago or something like that.
Wow, that's actually scarily accurate.
Yeah, no, I shared it, man. I sent out an email for it as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I did see a spike in traffic. All these guys came in, and then a bunch of them were like, "You don't know shit." And I'm like,
"Really?
Sorry."
Wow.
Well, there's only a couple, actually, not a bunch, but whatever.
Oh, what a bummer, man. The haters gonna hate. But even before the Julian thing, before all this sort of stuff, what is it about the pickup industry that you see is not actual reality? What's wrong with this message? What's not true?
Man, the biggest thing is like in my mind, there's a big contrast between the whole like skills side of thing and really training a skill set and becoming effective at a certain, I don't really want to say procedure, but you know what I mean, like a series of skills that allow you to accomplish things like dating or sleeping with women or whatever. And then there's the whole like lifestyle improvement. And when I was in it, at least, it was very divided among those two camps. There wasn't a lot of crossover. It was either like you do routines and you better shit, or you like don't do any of that. You just go to the gym, like make more money and become a better guy or whatever, and somehow you'll just meet more people, meet more women. And I think the problem was adherence to like a set structure. It's like martial arts and how MMA has evolved from that. That's how I see pickup. There's a lot of very limiting, kind of confining little boxes, and people tend to just accept all of one thing instead of taking the little bits that work now. Maybe that's changed. I don't know. You would know a lot more about that now than I would.
The industry hasn't changed a lot. It's weird, and I'm pretty, I guess I could say humble about this. That's like the least humble thing you could do, right? I'm pretty humble about this.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I always taught from a customized setting, like real personal, like everybody does an inventory. We were talking about cognitive behavioral therapy before.
Mm-hmm.
I have everybody do a worksheet, which we just started a new course, and probably what guys are saying, it takes about 5 hours to complete. Some guys, it takes months, because I ask a lot of questions. What is your perception of self? What's attractive about you? What's attractive to you? What's attractive sexually? What's attractive emotionally? What do you want? Like, all this stuff, family history. And I don't actually ask to see that, but basically we take that, they go through it, and then we base a social dynamic off of it and all that sort of stuff. But to be honest, like, it's sad because I'm the only person that does that. Like, people might say, hey, here's this questionnaire, but this is fucking thorough. And I actually got it from doing inventories like that myself and just seeing how beneficial it was personally and in a mental, for mental health. But then in pickup, I was like, well, okay, social dynamics are adaptable. And then when you start using them in that way, you can make it effective, but therapeutically, it's so freeing. It's awesome. So, but I don't see anybody doing that. I see people doing the routines, or I see people saying, let's be natural. Exactly. Let's have integrity. Let's be authentic, but still looking for something outside of themselves to do it. This being said, like, because I want to stimulate this a little bit more, when you being a counselor and you doing a lot of relationship therapy, counseling with people, what do you see is one of the main things for men and women that is causing this disconnect when you talk to people about their relationships in life? What are the questions they ask you? What are the problems they come to you with?
Disconnect in terms of what they think works versus what actually works.
Why are they having problems?
Oh, yeah. It's the way I say it is this. The best time to fix relationship problems is before you're in a relationship. There's very few times where I work directly on relationship related stuff. Usually it's like two people each have their own, benefits and positives, and each have their own flaws. And when you come together, it's kind of like the sum of both of those people is the relationship. And so whatever flaws are coming from each person, that's usually what causes problems. So although everybody kind of wants like, oh, give me 4 relationship tips, like communicate better, or do whatever else, the thing that works best, in my opinion, the way I approach it, is by looking at, okay, what are your problems? Where do they stem from? What parts of you are causing those? And then address that directly. Like, I heard a really good quote that kind of sums this up. It says, people take their own insecurities and twist them into their partner's flaws. And I
Yeah.
found that to be very true.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like just I know from myself, if I'm noticing a problem, and this may sound cliche, it's like when you point the finger, or when you point a finger, you have three pointing back at you. It's always like a reflection of myself. And even with my speech, like for the 21 convention and every other self-help or dating guru speech, so not necessarily like the paleo guys who are really scientific and putting that out there. It might be for them, but for all the guys like myself, James Marshall, Sasha, this guy Socrates, but man, I'll speak for myself. Mine was the myth of the alpha male this year, and it's really a speech.
I liked it. That was good.
Yeah, hey man, I'll send you the notes and stuff on it. But
yeah, that'd be great.
It's really like a speech to me. Even though I think it's important, even though I live for this, even though like I'm so passionate about it, and I get fucking crazy about it. This is a speech for me. And so when I'm hating something in the world, when I'm really pissed off at it, like the whole Julian Blanc feminism thing, it's just when I look at it, we were talking about this earlier. When I look at it, it pisses me off. When I stay away from it, it's like, okay, it's just this, it's bullshit, from both ends.
I had to unfollow a bunch of people just because, like, I can't see it. It just upsets me too much.
But man, when I get into that sort of mindset, I am really having a battle within myself, and that I think is like so important when it comes to dysfunction, and it comes to like, people's, if it's a mental illness or if it's something that is just bugging them, an emotional problem that they have to work through, it all has to do with you. That being said, what are some of the most common things that people come at you with, the problems that they're trying to work through?
Almost every couple has a few problems, but one of the ones that is kind of universal, and almost every single one of them has this as one of their problems, is the idea that one person wants more sex and one person wants more intimacy. There's always a masculine, tends to be the masculine person in the relationship, tends to want more sex. And I had one guy, I was like, I have a form I send them, it's like, list your top 5 goals for working with me. His literally, it was sex. Really? That was his 5. Yeah, he just filled in all of them. And we had a good laugh about it. But I was like, dude, that's seriously it for you? Yeah. And hers was exactly that. She's like, I don't really care about anything except for intimacy.
It's weird. And let me just tell you about my relationship, because I'm like a pretty open person, why I think that it's important to have you on for all of this. But Maria and I, so we've been together a little over 2 years and have like we have like so many things working right for us. And I've had just so many shitty relationships or so many attempts at relationships, all this sort of thing. And probably the best thing I could have done to put myself in this situation for this relationship is work more on myself, which allowed the possibility. It's not making a relationship happen, but allowed the possibility for that. But we have so many things in common, so many things like working in our favor. Yet every day it is very difficult. I don't want to say like it's bad, but I mean, we work at it every fucking day, and having a baby as well.
That's
you have
huge,
to work
man,
at it so much more, man. It's insane. That all being said, when it comes down to the sex thing, I have always been like the guys that you describe in your thing, but in this situation, no, man. I shit you not, dude. Fucking demanded of, first 3 months of a relationship, you're like, it's all about sex and all that sort of stuff,
Pretty much all you do, yeah.
Dude, oh my God, man. The first year and a half was like sex minimum 2 times a day, like demanding of it.
Wow.
Not from
That's
me.
impressive.
And it was a lot. And still it is at that. And it got fucking weird. We have a podcast that we're doing, and it may or may not be released when you're watching this, but I mean, we talk a lot about that, because when she was pregnant, there were dips. I don't know what it was, felt a hormonal dip or whatever, but I mean, I tried a lot of things to get my energy back up, and energy in general, working out, couldn't recover, sex drive lower. And then 2 weeks before the baby, it went back up. Man, it was just fucking crazy. And now, 4 months later, 4.5 months later, we're just now getting back to that like twice a day thing. And yeah, but man, a lot of that is actually me, and not her. When women are pregnant, they want it all the time. So
Yeah, it's kind of, I feel bad for the ones who, there's some guys that, and this is a problem I've worked on guys with, is they're grossed out by the pregnancy. They don't want to fuck their woman when she's pregnant. I'm like, so what's your plan, dude? You're just not going to have sex for like 9 months?
yeah,
It's a big crisis after they find out she tests positive and she does a little, piss test or whatever. I'm like, that's crazy, man. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It's amazing. Like, you're making a human being. That's fucking wild.
No, it's actually nuts. Like when you see all that happening, I mean, it's like an amazing transformation. We did this natural childbirth thing, which was even more crazy.
Holy shit,
Dude, it
really?
was fucking, no drugs, all midwife. It was, you really got to see the beauty of human life happen within that. I mean, it was fucking like, I could be like, okay, I respect women, cool. And this is what is so interesting about this feminist stuff, because they're like this and that and da 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 da. But Jesus Christ, man, when you see a woman give birth in that form, and in any way, even if she gets a C-section or whatever, or doesn't have
birth
kids,
in general, totally agree.
when you see birth, you see that, and I've seen C-sections, and that's impressive and cool and all that sort of stuff, and you're amazed by it. But when you actually witness the C-section, you're in the room. I was more amazed at the doctors' like brutality. Like, I mean, they go to town on the human body.
Hack in on it, eh?
It's
I couldn't be a
crazy.
surgeon, man. It would drive me nuts.
It's crazy. But when you see it happen naturally, I mean, it is a whole different level of like watching Anderson Silva snap his leg. That sucked. Okay. Watching Maria give birth, that doesn't even compare to how intense. I mean, 2 intense pains, and you can't really, it's hard to compare, but one lasts 7 hours straight, and it's psychologically, you have to be there, you have to push, you have to be, I mean, it's just crazy.
It'd be tough for you even just like standing there, man. I know it'd be tough for me just to be around,
I did. The last like maybe 30 minutes, I started to panic, and that does not happen to me. I was like, shit, okay, well, what if this doesn't work out? What the hospital's right there.
What are we gonna do?
It's like, what, I mean, shit, fuck. And the midwives, they have this like, I mean, they've done hundreds of births. They have this like gut instinct. It's pretty amazing. They know exactly what's going on, at least at the place that we did it at. Anyway, back to all this. Like, so what do people come at you with? Like when, let's say a couple has had infidelity or any of those things, let's say there's been problems where you're just not matching up. What is your goal? Like when you're trying to connect people back up in relationships? In fact, answer that. And then I have another question for you that came from one of the guys in my group.
Sure. Well, infidelity is actually, I think I can comfortably say it's my favorite thing to work on because it's the easiest. And a lot of people are surprised by that. They think it'd be a very difficult thing to work through. But the thing is that your mind creates stories more so than it perceives reality. So with cheating, it's more about perception than anything. And so it's about addressing, okay, so what do you think this means? What does it mean to you? Do you think that it has some effect on whether or not they love you? Do you think that it means you're a shitty person or maybe unworthy? And you go through all this kind of stuff and you figure out all the different ways that it's affecting them. And then you show them a much clearer picture. The comparison I like to use is that most people, when their partner cheats on them, it's like a cop who thinks he sees a gun and just fucking blasts a dude into oblivion. They just go nuts when their partner cheats on them. But then my job is to show them it's not a gun. It's just like some random, like a fucking TV remote or whatever, a harmless object. Cheating has almost nothing to do, usually has absolutely nothing to do with the person being cheated on. It's totally a reflection of the person who's done the cheating. And so it's a lot about working that out. And in terms of like connecting people, maybe there's not necessarily something bad happening. The first thing I ask them is, where are you at? Why are you here? And do you even want to be connected? A big misconception is that you're going to go to therapy and you're going to get like tons of advice and I'm going to tell you what to do. But the thing is, I don't know shit about the people who are sitting in front of me. Even if I've been seeing them for weeks, an hour a week, that gives me like 10 hours of experience with that person based totally off of their subjective reality they're communicating to me versus them they've been themselves their whole life. They know so much more about their inner psyche than I do. So my job is to act kind of like a tour guide. I just take them through their own mind and help them explore things, figure out what's the best option for them, why these things have happened. We look at motives, we look at beliefs, conceptions, and then the behaviors that are actually affecting the relationship. So my goal, first of all, is to create kind of like a map of where they're at, how they got there, and figure out all their kind of internal psychological structure, and then manipulate that in ways that will give them the results that they're looking to achieve in their relationship.
And so if the cheating has to do with the person who's actually doing it, you really work on them, but how do you heal the person who's, been hurt by it? Or I suppose they're both, jaded by it.
Both are hurt. I just read a really good article today about how a guy, he thought he had the perfect partner in his affair partner, and they both agreed to leave their, wife, husband respectively, and they did. And then 7 months into this relationship with his affair partner, the same stuff happened with his wife, and I was like, yo, big fucking surprise there, buddy.
Right,
like,
totally, yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah.
And the big thing is, like, with people who cheat, the damage is the perception that there's problems in their relationship, and the solution is to look outwards rather than facing their own flaws and dealing with it and accepting that their expectations are maybe out of line. That's a really common one with cheaters, is they have a perception that their relationship is so far below average because they have a really fucked up view of what average is. And you mentioned that before, that happiness is based more off of where you think you are and compared to the norm, rather than, how does it make you feel and how good is it for you. And it's very true. For the people that have been cheated on, it's all about convincing them that it isn't a reflection on them. That's it.
Yeah, but man, the degree, maybe I'm just crazier than most, or the women I've been with are crazier than most. I don't know what it is, but here's the deal. Like, so when I've been cheated on, or when I've cheated on somebody, or when I've had relationships that are open and then we just couldn't handle it, man, so many different variations. Like, what has happened to me, what motivated me to want to have sex with other people. First off, I wanted to. It wasn't necessarily that there was wrong.
That's
with
it.
Else.
They just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not some fucking weird, totally complex thing. People who cheat just want to cheat.
Yeah, and it like the concept, we were talking about addiction earlier before this, but the concept of cheating wasn't like I'm trying to hurt my girlfriend, or I'm trying to hurt
exactly.
Had nothing, that wasn't even in my mind.
Yeah,
it was that I want to fuck this chick's hot.
I want to slam this chick,
in all sorts of variations of different ways. And then that happens. And I think where shit gets really fucked up, I could talk about a lot of different situations, but where shit gets really fucked up in that situation when you're in a relationship is that, oh man, there's just so many levels to this. But when we try and make it function after that, because I have sex with somebody else, I don't know how to communicate to my partner, I don't know how to communicate to that other person, I like it. It's impossible. This is something that we do not get. Like, I can love the girl that I'm with, and then if I'm having sex with another girl, I can think about whatever I want about her, but as soon as I'm having sex with her, I start to develop an emotional map of some sort with her.
Yeah,
that I didn't expect. And man, and it happens, and you're like, you feel this draw towards them, you feel this draw towards this other woman, you feel like all this sort of stuff, and you don't know how to be open and honest about it.
Common
because
problem
you can't be honest with yourself,
Good point.
It's just so nuts where we get into it, and then we start ending up as this guy going, hey, I'm gonna leave my wife for you, you're gonna leave your husband for me. Then we get together and we haven't sorted out the deeper shit in there. In the deeper shit, to me, so my journey in this and the stuff that I like really looked for myself in it was not, how do I love my wife better? Or how do I love my girlfriend better? Or something like that. It was like, why do I have this need? Why do I have this thing that when I feel something, I can't articulate it, so I can only act and react? And I think that is actually the root of addiction. That's the root of compulsion and obsession, because I can't go, I just want to fuck that. Wait a minute. Do I want to fuck that or not? Okay, I'm going to fuck that. Hey, Maria, if I ever said this, I'd get fucking killed. I just fucked that thing, But to be able to,
I was going to say, hold on, before you go through with that, make sure she knows.
But to live, to be able to live in my own skin, that's where the real difficulty is. And there's so many different angles on this, and different psychoanalytic theory, counseling theory, yada yada yada.
Jesus, yes.
Yeah, where it's like holding on to the tension, being able to release it in the right area. But man, for me to get to know my sexual tension, to get to know what I wanted and be honest about it, and then be responsible with it. Number one, the motherfuckers who are preaching morality don't tell you also that you need experience to be a man to make that decision. You can't just fake it. And then the motherfuckers who are teaching you pickup or dating or how to be a man or some shit haven't probably experienced that shit themselves. I mean, I don't know anybody in the dating industry that really has much of a relationship. Like I said, I talked to Zan, I talked to Hypnotica, I talked to John Lichtenberg, but I mean, we see it over and over again. It's, I know a lot of guys who have girlfriends. I don't know a lot of guys who have like real committed stuff. And, it is what it is. The pickup industry isn't there to teach you how to have relationships, although sometimes they say you to, or say that that's what they're teaching. But man, it's really,
a lot of it conflicts though.
Totally. And it's not the right road. You know who I look to? I look to my buddies that I train jiu-jitsu with. I look to my buddies that I fucking hang out and talk business with. I look the guys who are fitness dudes at the 21 convention, that when I interview them, I get more. Here's what I get from a pickup guy. It's like, hold the frame. I got to be a dominant male. That's what a woman's going to follow. I call this bullshit, right? And then from some diet guy who actually, he did natural childbirth. This guy, Skyler, I interviewed him and he's like, oh,
that's
man.
wild. I still can't believe people do that.
Oh man, you should look into it. You got to make the decision of what is right. Or both of you guys got to make.
Yeah. Hey man, when I'm there, I'll definitely be looking into it.
But it's really defining experience and if you were to talk to Maria about it, it's so defining. And not to say that any birth is bad and it's all great and not one's better than the other, but from the experience of that I saw and witnessed and being on both ends of it, because I've seen C-sections as well. First off, working with midwives, beautiful. Working in the hospital, you're like kind of forced to do different things, and it's kind of crazy. So, but no, man, I think there's a total miscommunication. And I think when it comes to pickup, the wrong message being sent is this: that in order to be socially, sexually happy, to be fulfilled, to be a man, whatever the tagline is, but it's sex, masculinity, socializing. In order to be happy, you need to look for something outside of yourself. Mm-hmm. You need to be something more. You need to follow this path, when the answer and solution for all happiness, all fulfillment absolutely is dependent upon what's inside of you, not outside of you, learning to communicate to the world outside of you, trying to put that out there.
I agree.
That all being said, like this same shit I see happen over and over again in dating, relationships, all that sort of shit. But in people who have like PTSD, trauma, stuff like that, what happens when you get a client like that may have been in war, may have had an assault, violent attacks, sexual assault, abuse growing up? What do you start with when you meet somebody who has that scar, within them?
Well, first thing with people like that is establishing trust and rapport for quite a few sessions, maybe like 2 or 3 sessions in a row. I'll just focus on helping them feel comfortable. And by helping, I don't really mean doing anything except just being like a normal, non-judgmental, like cool guy and just talking with them. And once I sense that they're kind of at ease, because you can tell when someone's anxious, like they're tight, their body language is stiff, they don't flow naturally, the conversation is awkward. Once we get to a point where they're feeling a little more comfortable, then we'll go in, like for the case of childhood trauma. That's a really common one. A lot of people had some really fucked up childhoods, man, unfortunately.
Yeah, no.
And so the big thing, like with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, just for the listeners who don't know, basically you're starting with your thoughts and beliefs. So something happens, you interpret it in a certain way, and you draw certain conclusions about yourself and the world. And those conclusions cause you to act in different ways. Like we said earlier with that example, if you think a guy has a gun, you're going to react differently than if you think he has like a stapler or something, right? And so we're looking at, what do you think is happening in the world? What stories have you created, and what mental tapes are you playing through your head that are causing you to act in these ways that are detrimental to your social relationships, or your relationship with yourself even, or your professional relationships? And then it's pretty much the same process regardless of what the problem is. You map it out first, you find where the wires have been crossed and where reality has been skewed and is not accurately represented, and then you go through the process of re-examining that. And you can sometimes do it entirely cognitively, where you just change their beliefs and that's it. They're good. Cheating is a lot like that. You don't really have to do a whole lot of behavioral stuff. With people who have trust issues, for example, you might have to go a lot more into behavior. You might have to ask them to trust other people or be more vulnerable than they're used to being. And although that will terrify them and that will scare the shit out of them, the idea is when they try it and there's a positive result, that's something they never would have done on their own. And when they have that happen, it has a much greater effect on their cognition than I could ever, because that's a real world reference experience going, hey, it's not such a scary place. It's not so bad. There are people out there who aren't going to fuck with you. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to betray you. They're not going to, do horrible things. And then you build up their image of the world as a safer place and a better place and a friendlier, more welcoming place. And that in turn changes the way they react with it, and they become a much more positive, engaging person.
So change the way you think and then change the way you act.
Basically, man, to sum it up.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I think it's important. There's actually a saying that goes into like a lot of the addiction circles or those recovery circles that says you can't act your way into good, or you can't think your way into good acting, but you can act your way into good thinking. And
Yes.
and they go vice versa, because a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute, this guy just said you got to think first and da da da. But the combination of those two, I think, are so important.
The combination is key. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. How you think, I mean, it's the food for everything. But if you're so far off the map, I mean, like, I'll tell you about some of my trauma, because you can't really discuss patients or whatever. But
yeah,
when I grew up, my mom's kind of like crazy, controlling lady. My mom and dad are actually still married, which was rare when I was growing up, because everybody where I was growing up was divorced. It was nuts. My dad worked a lot. My mom, just real, like, had an idea of how things wanted to be. I just felt out of place. I was really artistic and all sort of stuff. And so it was for me, and my interpretation of it, that, and even you're talking about the story that I really bought into and told myself was like that, my mom hates me. We would fight all the time. My brother, not the case. He like got it down. He knew what was up. A lot of like just shame, humiliation, guilt, all these things that I felt. Of course, I don't think that was anybody's intention ever. But
no.
You interpret that is this like, I am out. My mom is evil. I'm being abused. And I really felt those things. And
that's what reality was to you.
Sure, of course. And actually, one of the best things that I ever heard when it came to working on yourself is whatever reality was, like, whatever it was, like, let's say somebody just kind of spit in one direction and the wind blew and it hit you in the face, but you interpreted that as spitting on you, and how everybody's saying, no, man, that wasn't the case. If it really traumatized you, if it really cuts deep, you have to treat it how you perceived it. And very, very much the case. But anyway, so that's what was happening when I was growing up. Got into drugs, alcohol, like kind of like any kid, but, took it a little bit further. And overdosed when I was 17.
Oh shit, that sucks.
Actually overdosed when I was 16, and then a couple weeks later, after I turned 17, overdosed again, and then like really fucking like went off the deep end, went into rehab, all that sort of stuff. And man, I remember this whole time I was like I've always been like kind of outgoing and crazy, the recipe for a pickup artist, right? The recipe is not good relationships with your mom and like seeking attention big time, right? But the thing is that I had no experience with women. I'd like held hands and made out with chicks and maybe done some heavy petting, and I don't know how much farther beyond that. But I remember when I was in rehab, this is some crazy shit, and this will tell you the difference between men and women. Some of the guys had a lot of sexual activity. Others had none, like myself. and all the girls had a lot. And
Yeah,
I
of
mean, it's
course.
just, and especially it depends on the level of like actual drug use you're doing. But fuck, dude, women, it can be intense. So I felt all bad. I, I felt out of place. Isolation once again, one of the key recipes. But I started going out with this girl, mainly to lose my virginity, and I, didn't really have a concept of it. We have sex, it's all good. I shit you not, like probably after like 5 to 7 times of having sex in my entire life, we worked at this gas station together. I went across the street while some dudes were there to get something to eat. Those dudes robbed the place, kidnapped her, assaulted her, drove
Whoa.
her around. It was just totally fucked up. We didn't know
Holy
where she
shit.
was for like 6 hours or 7 hours. They ended up throwing her out of a car. Anyway, so needless to say,
That's fucking insane, man.
this fucked me up. And we were actually talking about something before about your relationships, but here's what
Yes.
happened. She, we stayed together after that. We continued to have sex. We went to counseling. Just, it was too new, man. Unable to process it. The cops do this fucked up thing where when they're interviewing you, they're trying to see if you're involved. And we, like, man,
Yeah.
we all kind of knew who did it, but they didn't get caught. That was the worst part about it. There wasn't evidence to do enough. 16 years later, they ended up getting charged with it. But at the time, like,
Wow.
you know, so anyway, that all being said, I heard about everything. The cops told me about it. The cops made her tell me in front of them to see how I would react about all the details. The cops separately told me about, dude, this fucked me up. And then they're like, okay, well, cool. We paid for this counselor, for you to go to. And so we continued to have sex. And she would tell me, she didn't know, dude, she didn't know. So she would be like, well, yeah, did you like that? Did that feel good? Yeah, I thought you would like it. Some of the guys, they liked that. And I'd be like, well, what guy? And then it just fucked me up, dude. Fucked me
Yeah.
up. Just like,
That I can see why,
and
man.
I
That's
don't even know if I talk to her now and compare stories. We're like, I have made up. So I'll say this, I've made up so much of it because it's not connecting the dots with what she's saying. And like I said, 16 years later, the guys got busted. And the detective who did figure it all out, told me about some of the statements that I made. It's just so fucked up all over the place. But dude, that fucked me up. No women, no talking to women, no whatever for 3 years. And my whole sex life was like totally warped. That's why, like, this whole time in this industry, the foundation of it, and actually all the fucking hate from all the feminism stuff, and like, well, you don't know what it's like. Dude, I've had enough fucked up shit in my life happen to have an opinion about peace and love being the answer,
yeah. I don't like when people have a monopoly on like victimization, dude. It's like, oh, you don't know what it's like to suffer or be discriminated against or whatever.
So that all being said, man, if I came to you like that, let's say, and this happened when I was 18, but if I came to you as a 26-year-old, when I'm like fucked out of my mind, I've had sex with like, 8 chicks or whatever, but I like it when a girl's asking me to slap her or choke her or talking dirty to me, or I like it when she's asking me to, fuck her hard or do something like that sounds abusive. And I go like, man, I like that. I think that I am really a rapist. I think that I am really, misogynistic, horrible person, but I don't know how to have sex and my whole sex life's being fake. This is really where I was at, especially at that age. Where do you work with a guy like that?
If you came to me with that kind of story and your concern was specifically related to a traumatic event that caused you to doubt the authenticity of your sexual desire and whether or not it was coming from a healthy place, I would probably go through a series of not role plays, but visualizations and just asking, okay, when this is happening, how does that affect you? When you're saying you think you're a rapist, well, being a rapist is a very clear-cut thing. You go out and you rape chicks, or you have a strong desire to.
Right.
So if you're not doing that, then no, you're not a rapist. You just have a different sense of sexual gratification.
Though, like, I'd even add a more particular definition to it because so many guys and so many girls have a fantasy about rape, but
Yeah,
it's not
most common one.
it's not like rape is is so much different. Anyway, to explain, I thought
Dominance versus rape.
Yeah. I thought that when I was 26, I thought I am a psychopath, a
Really?
rapist, I didn't know, man. I mean,
No, of course not.
I
When you're
didn't
that
know.
age, you don't have the framework, right? You're trying to figure out what does this mean, and like we talked about, the wire just goes the wrong way. And
Yeah. I mean, I liked sex in these ways,
Mhm.
but and I didn't have enough of it to really know. I just knew that I got off when a girl, which I thought was just random. I didn't realize it was so common for women to be like, choke me, slap me, fuck me hard, talk dirty in that sort of way, go into a different mindset in sex that it,
Like animalistic
yeah,
almost, right?
yeah, totally. It's just a different mindset. I mean, that's how I see it now. But I really thought, I'm like, holy shit, like I am fucked up. Like my mom used to actually tell me, she caught me with porn once and she was like, porn is one of the signs that serial killers do of women abductors. Also, my mom had
Holy shit.
intense ways of communicating, right? But she would say, yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer had porn and all that sort of stuff. She didn't tell
Well,
me about
fucking
all the other.
everybody has porn correlation, man. That's such a crazy thing for like probably like an 11 or 12-year-old kid to
But it's
hear. You're
misinformation. We talked
yeah,
about this.
huge. Oh
Misinformation
yeah, biggest
fucking
pet
kills
peeve,
people.
man. It
You know,
does literally. Absolutely.
it fucks people up. So that all being said, I mean, man, we come into a world with guys and with women that are not communicating and all this other sort of shit, man. Like, God, that's what we end up with when we have this information saying, oh, well, this is how you have a relationship. This is how you're supposed to love yourself. This is how you're supposed to love women. This is how you're supposed to have an image of yourself. So I think there's a lot of issues with all that.
Yeah, norms are a huge problem. I would say that norms are responsible for like, I don't know, maybe like 60, 70% of relationship unhappiness because it's all over the place. It's like surveys posted in Cosmore Men's Health, like how often are couples having sex? And if you're below that, you feel shitty. You
Mm.
have ideas. And one thing that's really bad, there's a picture, I wish I had it. Everybody's ideal self they present on social media and in public and stuff, and
Yeah.
then like where they really are, and everybody's looking at everybody else's ideal self, and so we're all running around like this kind of hamster wheel type scenario where we feel like we have to catch up with these non-existent standards of achievement and standards of happiness that other people are portraying. And that's the thing. It's like there's no wrong way to have a relationship. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to go
Mm.
and you want to do blow 24/7 with some chick, you just want to like fuck and shut yourselves off from the world, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, I say go ahead. Whatever
Mm.
you want to do, whether that's that or whether it's like having a white picket fence and kids or whatever, that's fine. As long as you're not hurting anybody, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I actually agree with you heavily on that. So that being said, what is the point where it is dysfunction?
Dysfunction is when something happens that causes interference with the way you want things to be. That's my definition of it. So you can have, like for me, I don't know, let's say I'm a heroin addict or something. I stopped being able to do my job, but I'd really like to. That's a problem. Let's say I was a heroin addict and I just really like shooting heroin. I won the lottery. All I want to do is go on my private island, Dan Bilzerian style, and just like hire a bunch of escorts and shit and just do heroin until I die. That's not dysfunction. That's what I want to do. I would say that's unhealthy. I would say that's a very messed up mindset, but I wouldn't call it a problem because what somebody's doing aligns with what they want to do.
Yeah. So a messed up mindset, like what's the difference between that then and dysfunction?
My personal opinion. That's
Yeah.
it. My personal standard of, yeah, you can live any way you want. Yeah, you can go retire to an island and do heroin until you overdose and die. But I personally believe there are ways to get a lot more satisfaction in life. I think a lot of people would agree. So to me, that's messed up. But messed up is a relative term. And that's why in counseling, it's very important never to label or to judge because my opinion, my perception, irrelevant. Doesn't matter. And I've
Yeah.
had that, man.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting because this is, I think, very similarly along these lines is that, man, I really think the root of humanity and value. We were talking about this before. There's like so many life coaches. There's so many different like counselors or
Yeah.
whatever. But life
Most are terrible.
coaches, there's far too many. But somebody actually told me. They told me this at a poker tournament. Actually, I was there coaching somebody, and I was talking to one of the managers of one of the poker players, and he said, "Man, Steve, there's a lot of like people feeding off of like the poker players that have a lot of money, they're spending shit, they're really young, especially the online guys. So a lot of people take advantage of them. And so there was this one life coach there that was like kind of raking them all in, right? And man, he was such a dipshit. But goddamn, what a weird guy. What a strange human
life
being.
coaches are a strange bunch, man. For the
So
most
this
part,
guy, but the guy who was the manager said, dude, I do not trust a life coach who hasn't lost all his money, gone through at least 2 addictions, which I thought was funny that he said 2. I was like, man, one's enough, dude. But
no kidding. Eh?
I think they're all kind of the same. But he goes. He basically said, man, the guy has had to see reality. He's had to know relationships. He has to know people, and he has to know failure on a level. What's up?
Sorry, man.
No problem. No, it's all good, man. You got to do that stuff. But you know, he had said that, and I thought that was such an interesting like criterion. The importance of reality in somebody's life is so key, because I think it is an emblem of somebody really trying to live life. You know,
shoot, that's a really good point, man. Yeah, you don't really experience life, and you haven't really pushed to your edge until you've gone past it. I think in essence, that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And I'm not saying you've had to fuck your life up, but anybody who's like at an upper level of anything, whether that's fly fishing to mixed martial arts to being a counselor or whatever, you've come to a point where nothing worked. You know, where you believed in something so much, and then everything kind of went, you know, collapsed, and it wasn't working out in your favor. And to know what that means, and to know what that feels like is key. And to unify on the solution beyond that, I think is where real change, the potential of humanity comes into play. That's where love can be found. That's where excellence, that's where purpose, that's where happiness and all those things are. And for people that aren't happy, and people that are in that blame judgment mentality, man, I don't think that they've done that, or they've done that, but they're holding on to the adversity, the resistance that they got.
Yeah, I just wrote a note in case we got off topic. I wanted to touch on it, but I'll just say it now.
Yeah.
When you blame people, you put the power in their hands. Essentially, you're going, I have nothing to do with this. And then you relinquish your control over that thing. And the scary part about that is a lot of people do that with very important aspects of their relationship. The success of their career, the success of their relationships, their happiness, their health. As soon as you say that somebody else is responsible, you're entirely at their mercy in whatever respect that is, and you're totally just waiting for them. And I think it's better to do the total opposite. Even when you only have like, I don't know, maybe something's only 2% your fault, or however you want to measure it. You can control that 2%, so focus on that. Fuck blaming them for the 98%. That's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to make you bitter. It's going to make you frustrated. It's going to make you angry. And then again, you're waiting for them to do stuff to influence your life and to help you. And you should be the one helping yourself. And I think too many people are afraid to take control, because if you fuck up and you make bad decisions, you got to live with that. It's a lot easier if you fail to have somebody else to blame. And when you look at that and you, okay, well, I can't succeed because I had a bad childhood. Well, yeah, maybe you had a fucked up childhood. Maybe you had a rough time. Maybe your parents didn't teach you shit. But this is where you are now. So you can either do something with that and go somewhere, or you can live the rest of your life and be bitter and be miserable and resentful, and then probably on your deathbed realize, holy fuck, I wasted my whole life.
Yeah, I think that's so crazy when people are pissed off about something and you have an excuse. I mean, look, every single person watching this or interacting on, if you've lived life, you have an excuse to be angry and pissed off now.
Maybe multiple.
Yeah, but if you're holding on to that and you really want to hold on to that, really think about it. Like, what option do you really have? If you want to be happy, what option do you have? Like,
and how is it serving you?
Yeah. It's just so interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I am not an expert in the whole CBT thing, but man, would there not be some benefit in searching at, like really searching through, maybe writing about it, talking about it with somebody of how does this serve me? How does?
Yeah, I do that all the time, because I always tell people, whatever way you are now is the best way you know how to be. It's the way that you believe will achieve the best results in your life. And if that's being like an irresponsible, blaming asshole, if that's being somebody who consistently procrastinates, there's a reason you're doing that, and there's a way that it's
Man.
benefiting you. And as soon as you discover that, that's when you're able to make change.
Let's talk about that, because you had mentioned that before when we were talking earlier about this non-judgment and
Yeah.
how nobody ever does wrong. Like the guy
No.
who, and I actually really think this, man. I had a lot of hate for the dudes who had kidnapped my ex and had raped her and all this sort of stuff.
That's fucked
But
up.
16 years later, I actually had to identify them. And I even told the detective, I'm like, look, I don't care, but whatever she wants to do is her, deal. And she was like, no, man, I want, some justice to happen. So he's like, well, could you do a lineup? And he showed me a virtual lineup and showed me, he's like, I think this is them. And I'm like, I can't tell. I think this is them. I can't tell. This is definitely one of them. Dude, I don't know. Well, maybe this guy. And I'm like, that is the motherfucker. I saw it, and dude, boom,
As soon as you saw it, just
fucking
yeah.
crazy. I was actually looking on my phone, and I was in a grocery store, and I was like it fucked me up. But that being said, my mentality at that point was like, hey, I don't know those guys. I don't know what their life is in between then and now, or when that was like a couple of years back. So much has changed. I've talked to guys who have been rapists. I've talked to plenty of people, men and women, who've been raped. A lot of peace has come inside my mentality about that. And I was like, look, those guys are doing whatever they were doing. It's fucked up. It's totally fucked up. Fucking changed everybody's life. But you know what? We're all alive, and I can have this experience on Earth. That's pretty awesome. But that sort of non-judgment was very, very healing for me.
Yeah.
Believe me, I judge people. I judge motherfuckers all the time. But
yeah, me too.
But in that situation, I have some clarity just for going through that stuff at an early age. But explain your idea of this, because I was really impressed by it.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, the basic idea is this, is that, you can't ever do wrong at the time of the action. If you want to do something and it's wrong, well, you'll figure out a way to justify it. So in the moment it becomes right. And whether that's, I use the car thief example because it's pretty common. It makes a lot of sense.
You had your car stolen twice.
Yeah, I had. Fuck, man. Yeah, I did actually. And so this is, maybe I'm touching on it because it's something I had to learn to accept and forgive. And before anybody thinks that, like, forgiving something is the same as saying that it's okay, it's not. I don't condone it at all. And the thing is, with moral relativism, which is the idea that everybody has their own set of morals, which is right for them, it doesn't mean that there's no objective wrong. Like, stealing a car is wrong, but I get that this dude came up in a fucked up life. I seen his not seen his rap sheet, but when I was filing the police report, I actually saw him do it. And my fiance looked him up on Facebook because he stole one of my checks, right? And he used his real fucking name on the check, and he tried writing like a $2,500 check. And like, what idiot puts his real name on that? And so I took it to the bank. They found a video thing of him. She looked up his name on Facebook. It matched the video. He didn't get charged, believe it or not. But he was right there. And then so we took it to the cops. This guy, he's got like 6 pages of priors. He's been in and out of jail. On his Facebook, he was making posts like, hey, I'm out perping, which I had to Google Urban Dictionary, perpetrating crimes. I was like, really, man? Perping? And so I was like, this guy's obviously fucked up, okay? He probably came from a place where he had abusive parents, absent parents, no role models. He's Native, and they get discriminated against pretty hard here. I don't know about there, but this guy grew up in a world totally different from me, and whatever has happened to him has led him to the point where he believes this is his best option, is to go jack cars, go in and out of prison and shit like that. Now, tell me this, if you woke up in the morning and you had the option of starting a life as a car thief or starting a life as a successful business executive, obviously you're going to pick the business executive. Everybody would. So it's not about choices. If he believed he had the option and the ability to do that, I'm sure he would. And that's the whole role of correctional facilities in my mind, is to take these people, figure out, why do you believe this is the best option? How is this serving you? Like we talked about before, and then change that framework. Now, a lot of times it doesn't happen just because, for one, it's a shitty system. 2, they don't have the expertise and attention they need, and whole other topic. But the point is, I came to the conclusion that this guy doesn't think he's doing wrong. If I had him in front of me and I was like, yo, why the fuck did you steal my car, dude? Like, I couldn't get to work. without getting to work, I'm self-employed. I have to go drive and meet clients. I can't pay my bills. Like, you caused a huge inconvenience in my life. You stressed the fuck out of me. And then plus it's my car and you fucked it up. Like, why did you do this? He would probably just be like, well, I had to pay the bills. The fuck do you care? Go back to your perfect life. Like, to this guy, his perception of me is totally different from the way I actually am.
Yeah. Hey, and thank you so much for watching. That was part 1, and we're going to pick up on part 2, just rewound a little bit back, where we get into this deep, deep dialogue, man, which has to do with really what we left off on, right and wrong. How do we get past this judgment? Well, also being socially responsible, because we can't just, live in a culture without consequence. Man, if you really want to have that perspective, that's well-rounded, that hears it from all sides, definitely dive into part 2 of this episode. We get very, very deep. As you can tell, we've already gotten a little bit deep. And man, this was one of my favorite podcasts to record. All right, go to thesexuallife.com/Ryan Answers if you want to find out more about him and more about some of the articles that, can pinpoint more towards how he thinks, how I think about this, and get involved in the dialogue. Thank you so much. We love your subscriptions on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, any of those places, and get involved with us because we'd love to have that discussion.